What's up, everybody? Once again, I'll be taking us through the top 5 for each position, and right now we're on the blindsides. All the big number 6s in the country that we have. As always, I'm gonna take you through the top 5, explain why I like these guys, explain why they're a top 5 pick, and then talk about the guys that that are on the wider list that have just missed out on the top 5. Also some year 12s, just to give you an idea of what's coming next and who else is coming through sort of the pipeline kind of thing, so that you kind of get like a really, a bigger picture of what kind of talent we have in New Zealand, right? Because I think for the most part, a lot of people don't know exactly how much top-rated talent we have here in the country, and so this is just this is just a way to do it, a way for everybody to sort of get to know everybody that's around and get to be informed on who they can go and watch, and even if you go to some of these games, that you'll be able to go to some of these games with some kind of context to it, even if you like rewatch games from this year as well, from like live streaming platforms, all that kind of stuff. And so we'll start off with this. Here's the top 5, okay? The top 5 is, starting with Torian Barnes from St. Andrews College. He's my number 1 blindside. Gage Jackson from Auckland Grammar, which I'll explain a lot more, because a lot of you guys are saying, oh, he's a number 8, he can play lock, blah, 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 whatever. And I'll explain his one. He's my number 2. Natane Bale Somosomo is the next one, and he's from Nelson College. The 4th one is Max Ratcliffe, who's from Napier Boys High School. And then the 5th one is Kaiho Pasikala from Hastings Boys High School. And so those are the 5 right there that I see as the top 5 blindsides in the country right now. Okay, so I think Torian Barnes is a bit of an easier pick. I wouldn't have picked him last year to play in the New Zealand Barbarians, New Zealand secondary school trial. I think he would have been more perfect and more fitting for this year, with just the way that he plays and just the way that he just needed to sort of physically develop. He had a lot of raw talent last year, and I guess, and I understood why they picked him, because of what he could offer you leading up to this year, and then just sort of showing what he could do or seeing what he could do from that point of view. And so pretty much just a big guy big solid player who's really, really good on defense. A player that's just outright physical, makes his tackles, is a good supporter, breaks the line as well, because he's really powerful in the way in which he runs and which he carries the ball, and he's just so much stronger than a lot of people think. And then I think, because I think there's like players where you kind of look at and you go, who are deceptively strong. Torian is not that way, because Torian is so big, exactly how when you look at a player, you go, flip, that guy looks huge and looks like he's a bit of a tough guy, and he can handle a lot. That's exactly what he is. Hit him as hard as you think that you should, because if you don't, he's most definitely going to break your tackle. He's most definitely going to break through your line, and you're going to look like the weakest link if you don't hit him as hard as you think you should hit him. And that is something that I think getting towards the end of games, he's a guy that I would go to a lot if coming towards the end of a game, because of his work rate and fitness. He's still going at 100 even when it hits the 65-minute, the 60-minute, 65-minute mark, and the 70-minute games for First 15 Rugby, if those guys are out there that don't know it. So him still running at 100, being able to sort of get out there and break the line and stuff like that within those crucial moments, he's the guy that I'll go to. And in all that, he adds a lot of value in that sense of the game and in that sense of your game plan. And I would actually play him a full game. He wouldn't be like a guy that I would want to take off. I'd probably play him full game and maybe substitute off like a number 8 or open side and get someone else fresh on there, because I think that he's a full 70-minute player at a high rate as well. Very good off the scrums. Very good defensively off the scrums. Really does get into space really quickly. Knows exactly his role. Pretty good communicator in terms of like if there's if there's a scrum sort of near the near the sideline, he's really good at making sure that he shuts it down. He'll overplay the sideline to force runners back in, number 8s back in. Takes really good care of wingers as well in terms of like trying to get sneaky runs around those sides. He's pretty good like that. So that's kind of the reason why I would want him out there. He's not going to be a jumper. I wouldn't rely him as a jumper. I wouldn't rely him, maybe in the lineouts. I'd get him to lift, but in terms of like jumping, like I don't think I would look to him for anything like that. But yeah, he's number one. He'll be the number one blindside to me. He'll be my number one blindside, and that's that's taking out I guess some of the other players that could be in play for that role as well, that are in other positions. Like I don't think he's a player that you can just leave on the bench. I think he has to be out there. Gage Jackson is my number 2 pick from Auckland Grammar. Now, Gage used to play lock, now plays number 8, but I think he's actually better suited for blindside. They used him at as an open side for the under-18 Blues last year. I thought was okay, but I think if you're going to go to sort of the highest level of rugby, I don't think he'll be an open side. To me, personally, I don't think he'll be an open side. Gage Jackson is about 6'6", 6'5", 6'6". His battle with actually Taylor Cahill when Grammar and Hamilton Boys played was a really good one. Both of those two stood out big time. And so him being that sort of frame of guy, great on the lineouts, really good tackler. He does carry the ball well. He's not like a dynamic ball carrier or anything like that, but he's in the right frame of a guy that you would really want to sort of build around in terms of a player that, like, if you sign him now, get his body up to sort of Super Rugby standard, or to into the NPC standard. Once his physical side catches up to his height and to his skill set, I mean, you're going to have such a good player, because he's also a good leader and a smart guy as well at the same time. So, he's just one of those kind of guys. I would use him a lot in the lineouts, as well as one of those big time positive sides for him is that I would use him in the lineouts a lot, and I would use him a lot. Like, he's not just like a maybe kind of guy. Like, I would go to him every second one if I wanted to. Make sure that he's also a good decoy in terms of lineouts. Also very reliable on defenses, which is kind of another thing that I like about him. And like I said, he's going to be one of those kind of players that next year or under 20s, he's going to be a guy that you should probably really have a look out for, and just seeing how good he actually gets, and to see how physically he develops for you to actually know, oh yeah, this is the kind of guy that we thought he was going to turn out to be. And so in terms of rankings, and this occasion he's number 2 to Torian Barnes, and I actually hope we get to see Torian and Gage sort of in the next 2 years going against each other, because I think that'll be a really interesting one to watch between those two, going through the next stages of their careers. The third one is Natani Bale Somosomo. He's only been in the country for 2 years, I think. I don't know if he's going to be eligible to play for New Zealand secondary schools. Even though talent-wise he deserves it, I'm just not too sure on what the rules are for that. But if I was to start picking it now, he would probably be in that frame of guys that you would want to look at for New Zealand secondary schools and, you know, Barbarians kind of type rep teams. I mean, Netanya is just a big solid Fijian player with a lot of raw talent. Even right now, he's just playing on a lot of raw talent. He still doesn't really know the game that much, which is kind of scary in a way, because even last year when I used to see him playing, I just think, he's just a ball runner. But even with his ball running skills, didn't have a lot of flair or flash to it. It was kind of just up the guts kind of stuff, you know, like you just ran the ball straight and just pretty much beat players with just strength and power, and, you know. But then now that you see him this year, and now that he's learned position wise, you can start to see how good he is going to be. And he's like Gage with a 6'5", 6'6", but he's a lot faster and a lot more athletic as well. And he has potential to have a lot of flair. But I think the way that Nelson College is developing him, I think they're doing it the right way in terms of keeping him tight. Don't have to branch off into those instincts too much. Just play exactly what's in front of you and keep the ball safe and keep it tight, and then, you know, not really chance a lot of stuff, because he might not even be at that stage where he can even where he's able to even do that kind of stuff, right? He's different from a lot of Fijians that have come here and sort of just throw the ball around and then chance everything and see the way that it goes. And so this one's a bit different. He is a guy that I would use in the lineouts. I would probably look at him, like I said, he's really raw, but he's really athletic. Maybe get a lot more speed off the blindside, especially at scrum time. I think give him a bit of a different kind of role once he gets into club rugby next year, and see what he can do. But even just kind of at the stage right now, he's actually on a really good path, the way that Nelson College have developed him, and I think they're doing great. And obviously I think they've got a lot of help from Tasman and the way that they want him to play, so I obviously wouldn't be surprised if he just stays in Nelson and stays on that route, because actually right now Tasman's probably the place that you want to go to in terms of development and what they've got going on there. It's just working for everybody that seems to go there. So Netanya will be one of those guys that is on a strong development path, and pretty exciting to see what he turns out to be in the next 2 years. I'm pretty interested in watching where he goes. Max Ratcliffe is the next one, is the fourth player on that. I think, and he's the first year 12 on this list. He's the only year 12 on this list. Sometimes plays sometimes plays open side, but I think he's a better blindside. I personally wouldn't move him to number 8. I would keep him at blindside. I will keep him active and hardworking. Just his normal game that he does, just a lot of grunt work, a lot of high physical work rate is kind of what he does, you know. And even when he carries the ball, he's got such a good leg drive to him. And because he's so strong and he's so big, he knows exactly how to use his body and knows exactly what he's good at, and he focuses in on those positives that he has. Like even when I watch him play, I don't really see him try and do anything outside of his skill set. He just keeps to what he knows, and he just keeps to his strong fundamentals in which he has, and it really does just pay off. And I'm glad that he's not one of those kind of kids that tries to do the extra stuff that he knows that, you know, he may be 50-50 on. He goes for the percentages in terms of how good he goes good in terms of percentages to how good he is, and the talent skill set that he has already, not trying to branch out too much and do too much on the field. And so I really like that. I really like that a lot about him, but also his fitness is actually something that I was really surprised at, and actually how fit he is. I know that he's like a hard worker off the field too, which is so cool to see. In terms of even just young guys at a year 12, like there's a lot of guys that are not as committed as him, and they don't do like even half the work that he does to get prepared, for his rugby season, which is cool to see in younger players like that. And if you are a young guy who's year 11 right now, look to a guy like Max who works really hard off the field. And him and Gus Brown do a lot too off the field, who was part of the props that I put up there. Those guys are just guys that work hard off the field. And so, like, I know exactly what goes into those kind of guys, and it's just paying off right now. And Max Ratcliffe is one of the guys that I would highlight this year, and obviously, and going into next year, 100% a guy that we should look out for, because he's just a really good rugby brain, good talent, and probably one of the players we should watch out for in the future as well. In terms of like this ranking stuff that I was doing, and in the way that I was doing it, having him and Kaiho Pasikala, I didn't really know which one was fourth and fifth, and I think that they're kind of the same way in terms of which they play. But I put Max first because I know that he's going to grow a bit more. He hasn't stopped growing, where Kaiho, who's 17, turning 18, we know exactly kind of what he is, and in terms of his physicality, right? I just kind of see him as just like, well, I know that he's going to get a lot more muscle, which is great. But let's say let's say Max grows another inch or two, coming back next year, and how effective that's going to be. With Kaiho, we kind of know what he is right now, and that's sort of like a scouting kind of report, and just how the scouts and the agents look at these players as well. It's like, wow, if he's turned 17, 18, there's not much left to grow, not much left to get better or to get bigger. And Kaiho's probably that. He's probably the physical measurements that he has now is probably what he's going to be. He can put on a lot more muscle, which is great, and get his fitness up, but his sense of height, he's probably not going to grow any taller. If he has a freak, growth spurt over like the next 6 months or 7 months or something, then okay. But most of the time you just don't see that kind of stuff. Kaiho is probably a better runner, got a lot more flair. I think he's got better footwork, because he's got really good footwork, and he's got really good hand-eye coordination, and then playmaking ability going into tackles. He's really great at that. Like he will take a hit and give a really solid offload to then back up and be the first one to blow up, which obviously is what you want in quick ball play, as a guy that can give that pass, take the hit, not fall over, hold himself up, hold his feet, and then be right in there straight away to clean out. And that's exactly what Kaiho does in sort of his bread and butter in terms of what you're going to get out of him, is that he's going to take the hit, clean out ball, and if he doesn't offload, he takes the hit and then makes more meters is the other thing. And then he's one of those guys that you can't really take your eye off him, because if his hand gets free and he can see that offload coming, you're better off being on the receiving end of a guy running a line for him to give you the ball than a guy that's like waiting to put your head into, blow out, and then he gives a pass that goes to nowhere kind of thing. And so just the caution around him is just like, if you see him and his upper body is still up and his hands are free, you might want to call for a pass, and because he'll get you the ball straight away. Really good in the tackle, really strong player. When him moving over from Wairoa, I wish he did it maybe a year earlier and maybe spent 3 years at Hastings Boys, coming over from Wairoa College. I think I would have liked to see him just get more into it, and he would have been maybe a step or two ahead from what he is actually now, and because he is such a good player to be around. I'm really keen to see where he goes to in club rugby. I'm not too sure if he's already signed with the Hawke's Bay or not, but I would want to go after someone like him. I think there's a lot of upside to what he can bring to your team. even growing from now on is kind of like a cool thing to wonder like where he's going to end up, because he's got a lot of upside to his game. AJ, and these are the guys that missed out, like AJ Malili Malo Lawano is from Fielding High School. He's another guy that I had there on the bracket. Botany Dale's the captain. Xavier Saifaloi is another player that I think is going to... Xavier, I think, is going to be better at rugby league. I think if all of you rugby league scouts out there, go and watch him. And I might be wrong, but I don't think he's far away from being a first grade player as a prop. And I'm saying as a prop. So big, so tall, so strong and fast as well. Really good feet, really athletic, and just carries the ball really well. I may be wrong, but just go have a look at him. Try and get some footage of him somewhere, because I think there's something in terms of league for that guy. Zion Ma'u was obviously another guy from Carlson Boys, the blindside. I really didn't put him in this top 5 list because I already know that he signed with the Warriors, and that's where he's destined to go. Another guy that I really liked was Cody Enoka from Takapuna Grammar School. Obviously a smaller school to most of the the bigger ones, but I think with the right forward pack around him can shine a lot. The other guys that I really liked, and these are these aren't like in order or anything like that, but the other ones in terms of Conrad Toliafor from St. Peter's was another one I liked. Josh Keach was another one from Francis Douglas. I think he'll be a better 6 than he is at 8. I don't think he's a lock or anything like that. But the young year 13s that I liked was Johnny Lee from Christ College, who I think if he had another year would benefit him a lot more in terms of rep teams, and could be on the bracket for New Zealand secondary schools or Barbarians. Tama Whareaorere from Rotorua Boys was another one. I kind of like pushed him to the side because I know that he's a league boy, and I think in my heart that he's already got himself set on league, and I can't disagree with him. I actually think that if he went to league, he's making the better decision anyway if he went to league. The other one is Joe Simpson Smith, who's the captain and blindside for Palmy Boys. To me, another year would make a massive difference in terms of who he is as a player, and if not, then he'll just do it in under 20s. To be honest, he's just such a good player. But like, I think if you saw him at under 15s, you kind of knew that he was going to be a really good player anyway. And so those three were the ones that are young year 13s that I thought were really, that just missed out, that I thought were really, really good solid players and maybe could benefit from another year. But that's just me. Blair Fuimo no Tangi is one of the guys to watch out for next year. He's not that far away from Max Ratcliffe in terms of rankings, and he's from St. Peter's College up in Auckland. Very good line-out jumper, and a solid hitter. I don't think he's a number 8. I do still think he's a blindside. The other one that I really like is Casanova Penine, and he plays as a lock for De La Salle. I actually think he's a blindside. I actually think that if he moves to blindside now or next year, and he gets a year of blindside, which will prepare him as a player, I just don't see him as a lock going on from here, and just to give him the best, I guess, platform to go off, or the best opportunity to make something get something to his career. I think Casanova would be better at blindside. Dylan Bronland is the other one from Gisborne Boys High School, Gisborne Boys High School, and probably one of the fastest and fittest guys, even this year. I've never seen anyone as fast and fit as that guy, and that guy gives 100% every single time. And if he comes back built like a flippin' Muscle Man next year, everyone's got to watch out for how good he is. If he comes back built like a muscle man with his fitness and his speed, I have a feeling that he would jump Max Ratcliffe and Blair Fuimaonotangi. Because even this year when you watch him, and I know Gisborne wasn't the best team as a team, but if you just watch him and single him out, you can see how much work he gets through. The other thing is that, like, he's got to start with, like, the niggles and stuff like that. That's the other thing I didn't really like about him, was the niggly stuff, because he's already in people's faces because he's so fast and fit that he's always around the ball. But like, I understand the niggle side of, like, I'm not backing down, all that kind of stuff, but I just know that he can do it other way. He already does it with his actions anyway. But if he comes back as a big muscle man with a little, with just, some big solid muscle on him, man, he's gonna destroy some players, and you guys have got to watch out for him, because his speed and fitness with a really, with a big solid body, he's gonna hurt some guys, man. Like, he really is. He's such a good player. But that's my blindsides. That's my top 5 guys that are on the outside. I know this was a little bit too long because it's not supposed to be this long, but anyway, those are the guys. Open sides are coming up tomorrow, and also my year 12 team coming up tomorrow as well, with also with Monday morning meeting. All right, peace.